Muy buenos días, les invitamos a tomar sus lugares. Estamos a punto de iniciar con este seminario en línea. Muy buenos días a todas y todos. Pues muy buenos días, tengan todas y todos quienes nos acompañan desde distintos lugares de México y del mundo en este espacio de conocimiento en línea de la Cátedra UNESCO IMTA, el agua en la sociedad del conocimiento. En nombre del Instituto Mexicano de Tecnología del Agua, les damos la más cordial bienvenido a este espacio de conocimiento dedicado a compartir y difundir el mejor conocimiento del agua a nivel internacional. Y hoy es un día muy especial para nuestra comunidad. Somos muy honrados en esta comunidad académica y profesional del agua porque tenemos el honor de contar con la distinguida participación del señor embajador de la República de Pakistán en México, Abbas Shozab, a quien expresamos nuestro más sincero agradecimiento por aceptar esta invitación. Como ustedes habrán notado, la dinámica que tendremos en este seminario, en este espacio de conocimiento, las cámaras y micrófonos de quienes nos acompañan en Zoom estarán de momento bloqueados y así van a permanecer a lo largo de la sesión para favorecer una mejor experiencia para todos y todos en la fluidez del seminario. Y también le damos la más cordial bienvenida a las personas que nos acompañan en las redes sociales del Instituto Mexicano de Tecnología del Agua. Su participación, por supuesto, como siempre en esta comunidad de conocimiento es muy importante. Entonces, la forma de interactuar con nuestro moderador y con nuestro conferencista de esta mañana, con el señor embajador, será por escrito. En el chat ustedes podrán escribir sus preguntas, sus comentarios en cualquier momento de la conversación y al final de esta, junto con nuestro moderador, el maestro Fernando Cetina, estaremos dando cauce a estas inquietudes, preguntas, comentarios de parte de todas y todos ustedes. Nos da mucho gusto también poder escuchar y ver desde dónde nos acompañan. Si nos gustan compartir por ahí en el chat desde dónde nos están saludando, nosotros los saludamos desde una transmisión que se origina en la sede del Instituto Mexicano de Tecnología del Agua. Y es que la conferencia de hoy titulada La Cuenca del Indo, cuestiones de competencia y seguridad del agua, nos va a permitir asomarnos a una de las regiones más emblemáticas del mundo en materia de gestión hídrica, de cooperación transfronteriza y de diplomacia del agua. Y para darle la bienvenida al señor embajador de la República de Pakistán, damos la bienvenida a la maestra Patricia Herrera Asensio, directora general del Instituto Mexicano de Tecnología del Agua, y también nos estará acompañando el maestro Fernando Cetina Robleda en la moderación de esta charla. Maestra Patricia Herrera, ¿cómo está? Muy buenos días. La saludamos con muchísimo gusto y la escuchamos con muchísima atención.
Muy buenos días, Marco. Muchísimas gracias. Muchísimas gracias a nuestro distinguido embajador, nuestro distinguido participante. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Water Chair UNESCO IMTA. Thank you, dear ambassador. Today, I want to thank you so much to be here. It's really an honor to have you this day with this excellent item that is hydro diplomacy in transboundary waters. Let me take 2 minutes just to read your biography in Spanish and let to know our audience how important is your presence today, and it's an honor to attend your conference. And also, let me take 2 minutes just to make an introduction about what means hydro diplomacy to our audience. Thank you so much to be here, dear ambassador.
Thank you
El
so much, Marco.
embajador, you're welcome. Ambassador, el embajador Abbas Shozab es originario de Lahore, Pakistán. Es diplomático de carrera con más de 30 años de experiencia en el servicio público y la política exterior de su país. Es maestro en geografía por la Universidad de Punjab y cuenta con un posgrado en Diplomacia Ambiental por el Centro de Política y Derecho Ambiental de Ginebra, Suiza. Actualmente realiza el doctorado en Geografía Política en la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. Ha ocupado diversos cargos en el Ministerio de Asuntos Exteriores de Pakistán y en misiones diplomáticas en Estados Unidos, Qatar, Reino Unido, China y Etiopía, donde ha promovido la cooperación internacional en temas políticos, ambientales y consulares. Entre 2017 y 2020 se desempeñó como director general de auditoría, servicios consulares y asuntos de los pakistaníes en el extranjero. Desde julio de 2023 funge como embajador de Pakistán en México con acreditación concurrente ante Panamá, El Salvador, Belice, Costa Rica y Guatemala. A lo largo de su trayectoria ha impulsado el diálogo político y la cooperación en materia de medio ambiente, recursos hídricos y desarrollo sustentable. Déjenme rápidamente, solo para dar la introducción de lo que vamos a ver y esta excelente presentación que nos tiene preparado el embajador. ¿Qué cosa es la hidrodiplomacia? Me gustaría darlo solamente para cobijar la presentación que va a dar el embajador. La hidrodiplomacia son procesos de diálogo y negociación que buscan conciliar intereses entre países alrededor del recurso hídrico. Es la oportunidad que tenemos para construir un escenario de arriba hacia abajo y de abajo hacia arriba, atendiendo la participación comunitaria y de usuarios, incluyendo las particularidades de cada zona geográfica, en este caso denominada cuenca. Aunque es fácil la definición, la verdad es que se requieren estructuras nacionales previamente establecidas y tenemos en nuestra audiencia a diplomáticos de larga trayectoria, saben a lo que me estoy refiriendo. Estas estructuras nacionales previamente establecidas, acorde con esquemas de participación y de unidad de planeación, aunado a un consenso, ya que nos estamos refiriendo a estructuras culturales distintas, incluida la diferencia del idioma, que buscan precisamente la negociación. La hidrodiplomacia en un espacio transfronterizo, retoma este proceso de negociación de la diplomacia que se lleva a cabo bajo la autoridad de estados soberanos y que permite la cooperación entre múltiples partes interesadas. Busca la aplicación de consensos y acuerdos para la gobernanza del recurso hídrico, que no necesariamente muchas veces tiene que ser un recurso compartido, con muchas de sus definiciones así lo expresan, sino en un espectro más amplio, aquellas que se gestan en un escenario internacional, procesos que van más allá de las zonas transfronterizos, como son la gobernanza internacional del agua o la geopolítica del agua, o aquella que se gesta con la apropiación del recurso en un contexto globalizado. Sobre esto podemos hablar después, pero esta es una pequeña introducción para entender la presentación de nuestro querido y bienvenido embajador de Pakistán. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to be here, dear ambassador. Well, we are going to hear you. Please.
Thank you very much, Madam Patricia Herrera, the Director General of IMTA, the specialized water body of Mexico in the form of research and development of water resources, and for my generous introduction. It's an opportunity for me, in fact, to present the situation or the case of Indus River system, which is the main water body of Pakistan, which has been providing water to the land of the people of Pakistan since time immemorial. But later on, it definitely turns into so many other episodes as the situation developed in that part of the world. So in my presentation, I will give you a brief introduction of the historical perspective of the issue on Indus River Basin and how that basin, which was earlier was a bed of thorns, turned into a bed of roses, and now again it is turned into a bed of thorns. So it is a cycle in the bilateral hydrological cooperation between Pakistan and India. And it's also a big story for many hydrodiplomats and many hydrologists and many water planners, that how the relationship between Pakistan and India in fact evolved on this one particular natural resource. So in my presentation, I will try to give the briefing, try to give some background knowledge on this particular issue and the evolution of the issue and the efforts, the hydrodiplomacy which involved in this whole process, and then we reach to certain kind of conclusions and remedies and solutions, and which ultimately is now working between the two countries' relationship. It is very important. Here, I just want to give one disclaimer that although I am working in a capacity of ambassador of Pakistan to Mexico, but this presentation is purely on my academic research, and it does not reflect any component of the policy of the government of Pakistan. So it's an open discussion and an open forum where we can discuss with full liberty the situation which is happening in Indian subcontinent. Thank you so much, Madam Patricia Herrera, for giving me this opportunity. Your team has been very generous towards me, and all the people, those involved here, meticulously arranged these arrangements, and finally made me able to come up and show myself the presentation as well as my ideas on this particular subject. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
May I start now? The presentation?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Let me help you, sir. Here. Just starting from the Indian subcontinent, the map which is reflecting on this at this moment before you has two colors. One is a yellow color and the second is pink color. It is the entire boundaries of Indian subcontinent. And this situation, which is reflected in this map, is showing the situation before 1947. Before 1947, it was the British who were the ruler of India, and they ruled from 1747 to 1947. But generally, the whole Indian subcontinent occupied in different stages by the British colonial power, and finally, it was the composition at that time. The yellow color is reflecting the areas which were directly under the control of the British Empire. And the pink areas were the areas which are showing where the princely states or the princes of the India were allowed to govern their territories. So practically it was not a one administration, but two administration. The administration of the British Empire and the administration of the princely states. The number of the princely states was about 536 at that time, and when the continent was being ruled by the British, they finally divided the country in 1947 on 14th August 1947 between two states. First was Pakistan, and it has two parts, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. And the second was India, which is still an India, the inherent state. So the total area of that territory was around 4.56 million square kilometers. And the population at that time was about 400 million. This partition made the two countries, Pakistan and India, and turned Pakistan, this is a map of Pakistan, and it's a country of about now it is a country of about 230 million people. At that time, it was the territory at that time was again 881,000 square kilometers. So this is a situation. And the countries, the neighboring states of Pakistan at that time and at the time of independence of Pakistan was China on the north, India on the east, Afghanistan on the west, and Iran on the exactly in the west. This slide is showing the boundaries of Indus River Basin. You can very easily see that the boundaries of the Indus Basin are spread on 4 countries. Predominant region of this country, of this basin, falls in Pakistan. Then the second part is India. The third part is China. And the fourth part is Afghanistan. So practically 4 countries are part of this river Indus Basin. Pakistan covers about 79% of the area of Indus Basin, whereas India covers 10%, Afghanistan 2.7%, and China's portion is very small. This is the second most important part of Indus Basin because all the Indus rivers, particularly Indus itself, originates from the Chinese Tibetan territory. And the Lake Manasarovar is the point, is the mouth from where it emerges up. And then it flows into the occupied Indian Jammu and Kashmir region and enters into Pakistan's Gilgit-Baltistan region and then flows down into the northern provinces of Pakistan, which is called Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab, and ends and terminates in Indus, in Sindh province. The second part, I have very clearly demarcated that there are 2 kinds of system. One is the system which is covering the Indus, which is the main river, and then its tributaries which are coming from the lower side in the Himalayan and Karakoram regions, but they are the lower tributaries of Indus River. Jammu and Kashmir is a very important region because, first of all, it is the source of all the water which is coming in the Indus River system, 1. 2, that this territory is actually a disputed territory between India and Pakistan. So you can very well see that there are 4 different colors. One is the yellow color, which is the territory occupied by India. And the second territory, which is gray, is the territory which is totally independent and is called Gilgit-Baltistan. The third region is a green belt, which is called Azad Kashmir or Free Kashmir. And the last part, which was the part of the Chinese territory, is Aksai Chin. So these are the 4 main areas on which the historical boundaries of state of Jammu and Kashmir were existed. I'm cutting short so many information because I think that my point of view or my objective of this presentation is to give you the details about Indus River system. So I'm not trying to indulge myself into the deep historical issues between India and Pakistan, but the main and primary issue is water right now, which is under discussion. But in any case, some of the issues has to be understood from the perspective of the past. Until if you do not have that information, you may not even properly evaluate the exact situation of the issue of water between the 2 countries. So here you can see on this map, Punjab, it was original boundaries in total as an original boundaries of Punjab province, which was actually divided on 14th August 1947. When the British left, they divided actually two provinces of India. One was Bengal into East Bengal and West Bengal. West Bengal became Indian part and the East Bengal became Pakistan. And then the second province which was divided between the two countries was Punjab. And again here, the red part is called East Punjab and the west part is called Pakistani Punjab. So East Punjab is Indian Punjab and the green Punjab is a Pakistani Punjab. Here you see two more different colors. One is this yellow line, which was actually the line of partition, or it is called Radcliffe Award. That was the award, or that was the partition of this province on 14th August 1947, when the people living in the eastern side and the people living on the western side, both were Punjabis. But because of this line, they divided, they transferred, they migrated from one part to the other part. As I mentioned on the arrows, that about 5 million people, roughly 5 million people were migrated from India to Pakistan, and again 6 million people migrated from Pakistani Punjab to the Indian Punjab. Overall, right now, it is the largest province in Pakistan, and now it is not called West Punjab, but Punjab, and the current population is 110 million. Whereas the Indian Punjab is has a population of about 27 million. So overall, it is a huge province and is called as the basket of bread of India and as well as of Pakistan. It is a highly agricultural zone of the two countries and produces a huge amount of grain, cotton, sugarcane, pulses, vegetables, fruits, etc., etc. All the agricultural produces are coming from these two provinces in respective countries, India and Pakistan. This Radcliffe Award was a very serious award because when it happened, it cut the system of irrigational system which was established by the British before this whole struggle of partition started. I would show here in this slide that when Pakistan came into being, all the canals which were coming at that time at this boundary zone, it is exactly the boundary zone which was demarcated by the Radcliffe. So this yellow line, which is showing on this map, is explained with more clarity on this line. This is called Bari Doab. Bari Doab is the name of the territory between the two rivers. Here, the southern river is called Satluj River and the northern river is called Ravi River. So this is the territory between the Ravi and Satluj River. If you can see, the two barrages or dams, diversion dams, were built by the British. One on the Ravi River is called Madhupur Barrage, here exactly on the top, near the border of Kashmir state. And the second here in the downstream is called Firozpur Barrage. So these two barrages has a great historical significance. Why? Because when the 1947, this Radcliffe Award or demarcation was drawn, these two barrages were deliberately handed over to the to the Indian territory. So India, having these two barrages, played a very nefarious designs against Pakistan. On the 1st of April 1948, Indian Punjab, meaning this red portion, they closed down the water, they cut off the water to Pakistan from these two barrages, Madhupur and Firozpur. And with this development, there was a chaos created in Pakistan. You now just use image of the mirror of imagination in your mind, that this was the time when huge country like India was being divided in the result of a long struggle against the British occupation, and the two countries were emerged. One Pakistan, India, and the second India. In the result of this partition, a huge number of people, about 10 million people, were migrating from east to west and west to east. So this was a period of a great chaos. And it was really a challenge for both the countries, especially for Pakistan, because Pakistan was a new state. India was an old state. All the institutional mechanism was available at that time to the Indian government. So Indian paraphernalia, Indian administration, Indian bureaucracy, Indian military, they were all present in an institutional form to control the flow of people. But on the other side, in the territories of West Pakistan, the institutions were very nascent, they were very young, their capacity was very limited, and there was a lot of shortage of resources with them to manage and control the flow of that population. That was number one. Number two, immediately after this partition or after this Red Cliff Award, another chaos started in Kashmir. Why? Because Kashmir was a predominantly Muslim-dominated state. As I mentioned you in the first slide, that the pink areas are reflecting these states and yellow areas are the areas which were directly controlled by the British. So the yellow areas were given complete independence as per the British law, but the pink areas which were under the control of the princely states were given the right to their rulers to decide about their future. But the principle in the 1947 Act of Independence of India, it was written that the Muslim majority areas should be given to Pakistan, should be the part of Pakistan, and Hindu majority areas should be the part of India. So by this definition, there were two other components. One was the contiguity of area, meaning that all the areas should be closer to each other and they should be abutted with one another, joined with one another. And the second was the population. If you are Muslim, you should be the part of Pakistan. If you are Hindu, you should be the part of India. And the third was another very treacherous term, which was used as other factors, which were very deceitfully designed and used by the British administration against the interests of Pakistan. And we see that factor or other factor component was used in a very unfair manner. So this Jammu and Kashmir state, which was a princely state, had a 75% Muslim population, and the remaining 10% or 20% was Hindu population and the Sikh population. So it was a mixture, but the predominant population was Muslim. So according to the partition plan, it has a contiguity with Pakistan. It has the majority population of Muslims. So technically it should be the part of Pakistan. But unfortunately, the Raja of Jammu and Kashmir, who was a Hindu person, decided to sign the letter of accession on the request of the Indian government with India. This caused a lot of local resentment and immediately started a backlash in Jammu and Kashmir, Srinagar, and all other territories. And people from the adjoining areas revolted against this decision, that why the Raja of Jammu has acceded to India, and they started building a kind of a resentment against this decision. And a war, first a civil war and then a regular war between India and Pakistan started. In the result of this struggle, you see this green line, this green area, which is called Azad Kashmir, according to Pakistan's perspective, because we got them freed from the Indian occupation. But the Gilgit-Baltistan has its own autonomous status during the British Raj, as well as in the history of Jammu and Kashmir. So that territory also predominantly Muslim, 99% Muslim, they all willfully agreed to join with Pakistan. But the remaining, this yellow part, the yellow region or yellow territory, which was again predominantly a Muslim territory, could not succeed to get liberated because the Indian forces were landed in Srinagar and they started a regular war against Pakistan. And then finally, on this whole episode started on 27th October 1947. And from 27th October 1947 till 1st January 1948, where India approached the United Nations Security Council, and the United Nations Security Council passed the resolution and a ceasefire was held between the two countries. So that is how the whole affair of Jammu and Kashmir since 27th October 1947 till today is in doldrum, and the territory is a territory, nameless territory. There is no the application of the resolutions of United Nations Security Council are still in abeyance. No international body could implement those decisions which were agreed upon. And now the situation is that the tension between these two countries is growing and growing. And the will of people, which is the main question, has yet to be determined. And the main resolution is saying that this will must be determined. So if it becomes, the whole territory becomes the part of Pakistan, then the situation will be totally different. But in a current situation in which 45% of the territory is in the hands of Pakistan and 53% territory of the state of Jammu and Kashmir is in the hands of Indians. And that is the territory from where all water resources of Indus River system is coming up, which has two types of flow. One, the eastern rivers are flowing mainly in the Indian territory, Indian Punjab and Himachal Pradesh. And then the western tributaries, which are mainly coming from the occupied Jammu and Kashmir, as well as the Pakistani territories. So I hope that I would be able to explain a little bit. So this is a very important map. Now, when this boundary drew up, they deliberately kept the Madhupur and Firozpur barrages under the control of Indian government, whereas all the canals which were flowing out of these barrages were actually irrigating the lands which are now in Pakistan, except the one territory which is called Amritsar. So we were ready to, Amritsar was a center of the Sikh Empire, and Sikhs at that time decided to be part of India. So Pakistan has no objection on that, but the rest of the territories should be the part of Pakistan. But it again, the deceitful decision of the British Empire, and they handed over that territories to India. Now, India started controlling these two dams, and on 1st of April 1948, the two countries started confronting with each other on the issue of the flow of water, which ultimately ended into a kind of parlays of negotiations between the two governments. The Prime Minister of Pakistan, the Prime Minister of India, regularly sending their telegrams and their messages to each other in order to resolve this issue, because otherwise the gravity of this issue was that because of the closure of water on 1st April 1948, the people in Pakistani side of Punjab were in great distress, and they have no clarity that how they would continue their economic occupation, which was actually at that time 90% people of that time were engaged in agriculture. So here on 1st of May, within 30 days time, an interim kind of an agreement, which is called Interdependent Agreement, was signed between the two governments, and they agreed to restore the supply to Pakistan. But during that period, they also made two demands from Pakistan. First, that Pakistan should pay for the cost of water, and second, that Pakistan should start building its new infrastructure, because in a certain period of time, which was actually decided 10 years, India will stop supplying water to Pakistan, and Pakistan has to make an alternative arrangements for the supply of water because of the closure of these two barrages, and a new arrangement, a new system has to build by Pakistan. So these were the two main ingredients of Inter-Dominion Agreement signed on 1st of May 1948. But in response to this agreement, Pakistan said that this is not the final solution, number one. Number two, Pakistan has the right on the waters of the rivers, which were actually earlier the part of undivided Punjab. And that is its historic demand, because water is flowing in this territory since the time immemorial, and now the new boundaries has changed the structure of it. But it does not mean that the flow of water may be seized off just because of the demarcation of new boundaries. We all know, according to the United Nations resolutions and international the principles designed by the International Court of Justice, and also so many other documents of United Nations, that water is the fundamental right, and it has to be given to each and every person who is living on that territory and the water flowing on that territory. So it is a intrinsic right of every individual and the territory on which the water is flowing. So Pakistan, in fact, focused its argument on the historic use of water. But India immediately, where is that? Let me find that. Yeah, sorry, it was just the next one. India used a very a different point of view, and the point of view was why India closed the water on 1st of May 1948, because India said now the rivers are flowing in the Indian territories, and India has a complete territorial sovereignty, or applied the principle of absolute territorial sovereignty. Whereas Pakistani approach was the proprietary rights, as I mentioned you, that the water has been flowing on this territory since time immemorial, and also the people living on this territory before this demarcation and new political realities, they had the right to use the historical flow of water. So Pakistan used the argument of historic rights and proprietary rights, and India, absolute territorial sovereignty, which, by the way, you must know that this absolute territorial sovereignty was designed, or this concept came from the Harmon Doctrine, which was the Attorney General of United States, which they used against Mexico on the Rio Grande problem between United States and Mexico. At that time, in late 1800s, Mr. Harmon explained that United States has a full right to use the water because the water is flowing in its territory and the river is coming from the United States and downstream going into Mexico. But as long as it is within the United States territories, US has a full right to use its water. But again, when this issue was discussed in the US Congress, they rejected the Harmon Doctrine and said that this is not a fair doctrine. So the concept of absolute territorial sovereignty was even not accepted by the federal government of United States against their own Attorney General's opinion, which is known as Harmon Doctrine. But here in our Indian subcontinent, India unilaterally used this point of view and said that no, India would not give this water to Pakistan. Then India also played against Pakistan at that time, and the two countries keep on struggling for finding some solution, especially Pakistan being a low riparian state, downstream country, because our stakes were were very high, and we were technically at a weaker position, and Pakistan was a newly built country, and our resources were also very limited. So the second phase of this hydropolitics between the two countries, or hydro diplomacy between the two countries, started from 1952, when the World Bank came into contact with India and Pakistan. The first, I would say, the first period, which started from 1948 to 51, was partially successful and partially unsuccessful. India, whose main emphasis was on the absolute territorial sovereignty, and Pakistan, whose main focus was on the historical uses, remain in the doldrum and could not reach to the final conclusion. But India gave a 10 years concessional period to Pakistan to start building additional infrastructure to transfer the waters from the Western River to the areas which are now deprived by the occupation of eastern rivers. So eastern rivers, which are three, Satluj, Beas, and Ravi, they were gone to India, and India wanted to utilize the waters of these three for the development of its own eastern Punjab. And on the basis of that developmental need, India pushed Pakistan to start building a new infrastructure. Then when the World Bank came into being, came into the contact with these two countries, World Bank gave a new kind of a model between the two countries based on mediation and based on the partitioning of water resources, and based on financial resources, as well as some guarantees to lower down the temperature between the two countries, and also bringing some common ground of mutual cooperation. So I would say that the bank has played a very constructive and very positive role, despite the fact that the agreement which finally reached between the two countries was not very fair, according to the Pakistan's point of view. But it was the minimum compromise which was actually agreed upon by the two sides. What the final and ultimate result came out of this negotiation was the division of water. If you see this picture, you will see that the pre-treaty water usage, the entire flow was a common flow, and the water was being used by both the wings of East and West Punjab, as well as the southern province of Pakistan, which is known as Sindh. But once this treaty, which the negotiations on which continued for more than 8 years, from 1952 to 1960, ultimately divided the water exactly on the same pattern on which the land was divided, or on which the Punjab province and Bengal province were divided. So water was also divided. Now they decided that the three eastern rivers, namely Ravi, Beas, and Satluj, which carries about 33 million acre-feet of water, would be given to India. And the three western rivers, which are called the main trunk of Indus River, and the two tributaries of Jhelum and Chenab, plus Kabul River, they were all the part of this western rivers, and the western rivers would be given to Pakistan. So this was the ultimate division mechanism designed by the World Bank in consultation with Pakistan and India. So here I just, World Bank, when it started their process of negotiation, they first tried to assess the exact amount of water in the whole system, and they found that the eastern rivers carries 33 million acre-feet of water, whereas the western rivers carries 135 million of water. So the total basin carries 168 million acre-feet of water. And it was exactly divided in this fashion later on. On the 19th September 1960, the two countries, India and Pakistan, finally signed the agreement, which is called Indus Waters Treaty. And according to the Indus Water Treaties, as I just mentioned, the three eastern rivers were given to India and three western rivers were given to Pakistan. But again, it has a very complex structure. The treaty itself is not a simple treaty, it's a very complicated treaty. But it has 12 articles and about 8 annexures and one schedule. They all define that how the treaty would be operated by the two countries. And the most important component of that treaty was that all guarantors under the consortium of the World Bank will provide financial resources to Pakistan to build replacement work, because the three rivers which are now cut off, which were now completely under the control of Indian usage, would be replaced by the construction of a new infrastructure in the West Punjab to bring the water from surplus zone to the deficit zone. So the surplus zone were three rivers, meaning Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab. And by building connecting canals, that water would be brought from those regions to this deficit regions, which was, again, I would show, this is the deficit region of Bari Doab, which was the first and foremost affected by the closure of water by India. So we can very clearly understand that how much pain Pakistan has to bear at that crucial initial phase, when a huge population was crossing, when Kashmir war was taking place, and the water was stopped by India, and Pakistan was in a great trouble, and our hues and cries were even listened by the Almighty God. Now, I like to explain a little bit of this Indus Basin Treaty, in which Article 9 is very interesting. It relates to the settlement of dispute. In fact, under the treaty, a commission was established, which is called Indus Basin Commission. And the commissioners, Indus Commissioner Pakistan and Indus Commissioner India, they were responsible to handle all affairs between the two countries. Now, in a current scenario, this was the history, and now is the current situation, that the animosity, that the rivalry between the two countries, despite the fact that from 1960 to 2025, the treaty is there, and treaty has been functioning very well. But in a very recent episode, which is called, you can say, this episode, Pakistan-India recent conflict of April-May 2025. First time in our history that India has unilaterally put the treaty in abeyance. This is really a new phenomena which has never been seen between the two countries, despite the fact that we have fought 3 major wars. In 1947, which was the Kashmir War, and then 1965, which was again on Kashmir War, and then 1971 war, in which the East Pakistan was separated and Bangladesh came into being. So I would say that this decision of the government of India, just on the basis of no rule, no law, as they have adamant in the past, when they said that, no, we wanted principle of absolute sovereignty. And now they are saying that we do not care about you, and we are going to put the treaty in abeyance. And there is no provision in the treaty that either party can unilaterally separate itself from the treaty or say that I withdraw the treaty. There is no such provision. Even the International Court of Arbitration has given the decision on this particular aspect, that no country, no single country unilaterally withdraw the treaty. Both has to put down their request unilaterally, and only then the decision will be given that whether the countries are agreed to continue or not. But there is no provision available for the withdrawal of treaty, and the guarantor is the World Bank. So this is the situation. Under this condition, under this situation, India, despite all clarity, has put the treaty in abeyance. They said that national security is under threat, and also in the result of this abeyance, they halted again the water of River Chenab, which was actually the river allocated to Pakistan, and also opened the gates of their dams suddenly without intimating Pakistan, which has been causing a lot of problem and trouble to the downstream in Punjab as well as in Sindh. So I would say that the current attitude of India is playing again hydropolitics with Pakistan by creating a new demands, by putting in new ideas that we have the right to construct a run of the river dams on the western rivers, on the 3 western tributaries. Yes, the treaty permits it, but treaty again has given a very delicate balance by saying that all design of the new infrastructure has to be discussed with Pakistan. If India wants to construct the dams, it should be, first of all, it should remain run of the river dams, number 1. Number 2, that dams should not fill the water. And number 3, there should be no sudden release of water behind the walls of dams. So there is a very clear-cut criteria which is written in black and white what should be the design. And design, before implementing the design must be discussed with the downstream Pakistan. But unfortunately, India says that again it's a question of its sovereignty, and we would not reveal what the designs we have and what the designs we want. But they are saying that we need a lot of infrastructure to build because our demand and our needs are growing. And now they're also putting a new onus on the treaty that the climate and the ground realities are changing very fast. Definitely, these are growing very fast, and the changes are very much evident practically. But again, how to discuss these things, how to sit down, India is not ready to give any kind of a plan to Pakistan, and trying to use unilateral decisions and wanted to impose those decisions upon Pakistan. But the spirit of cooperation, which is actually the core spirit of the treaty, is again missed from their administration. So far, since the treaty has been signed, Pakistan has went to the International Court of Arbitration 4 times. First is the Baglihar Dam, then Baglihar Dam, and the second is the Krishan Ganga Dam, and then the Kishan Ganga and Ratle Dam, and now again that question is under consideration. So since 2005, 222, the 2 times the neutral experts has been placed, which again the treaty gives a provision how to handle the question, how to handle the disputes. If the matter is not settled at the commissioner's level. So the first tier of settlement is commissioner level, then the second tier is the neutral expert, and the third tier is the court of arbitration. So we have invoked that article 3 times, and the court has decided 2 times for the court of for the neutral experts and one time for the Court of Arbitration. But if you see the time frame, 2005 and 2022, the final decisions are yet to be produced. So it is a very time-consuming and very difficult process which takes a lot of time, a lot of energies, a lot of resources and money from both sides. And then ultimately, the parties may not agree with the decision, like India this time has unilaterally put the treaty in abeyance, which is completely unwritten thing. And it is a strange behavior of a so-called responsible state of India against Pakistan, which has been trying its best to uphold the matter under the spirit of the agreed treaty and to build the relationship between the two countries. So this map is just showing that how many dams are being designed or planned or being implemented. It's a proliferation of dams, and India wanted to establish its right by constructing these dams, that now dam has been constructed, so it is my right, it is my prerogative to use it, and I have the complete authority because this is on my territory. Be aware that this is not the Indian territory. Jammu and Kashmir is a disputed territory according to the United Nations resolution. And the final decision of this territory has to be declared, has to be defined. But the two countries has the right to establish infrastructure for the welfare and development of its territories and people. But it has again certain limitations and certain parameters on which those infrastructures has to be built. Very common, India in the Kishanganga Dam project has diverted the water. So the very flow of the Western River has been reduced tremendously. So this is a kind of a problem for Pakistan and for Pakistan's water managers when the flow of water reduces and it is diverted to another site, despite the fact that such diversions has not been allowed in the treaty. This is just a glimpse of the run of the river dams. You can see that 8 dams are being constructed by India on the western rivers, and Pakistan is also building those 4 dams on the rivers which are already allocated to it. So I like to conclude at this point, and I would say that this bilateral treaty of Indus Waters Treaty has so far given the two countries such certain benefits, like they have established water infrastructures and they have a platform from where they can discuss their water issues, hydropolitical issues between the two countries, and the two commissioners are fully empowered to convene the meetings. But again, the meeting has to be cleared from the central governments of each other. So it is not very independent. There is no permanent schedule available to each commissioner to hold the meeting. Meeting is on the discretion of the central government. If they want, only then the meeting takes place. So now India, once unilaterally has declared that it is the treaty is in abeyance, since then there is no commissioners meeting between the two countries. But again, I would say that the treaty has provided a lot of inputs to resolve the technical issues, hydrological issues, management issues, and keep the level of disputes to the lowest level. But it is again the will of Indian government not to lower down the temperature, but always keep the temperature high, so that under that temperature pressure, political temperature pressure, they maintain their upper hand on Pakistan, trying to subjugate and trying to take more and more advantages from their position. Exchange of data is a very important, and it has been done, but there are certain complaints about it, that the data has not been given by the upper riparian to the lower riparian in time. Time is very important for the data sharing, otherwise data has no value. We used to say that IWT survived 3 big wars. Yes, it did. And the two countries also declared themselves as a nuclear power, and the treaty remained there. But the first time, India is now changing its mindset because of a certain reasons, and this special privilege that we used to say that it survived three big wars is now a question mark, that whether it would further bear the stress which India has been putting on this treaty. It is imperfect treaty. Pakistanis do not happy with this treaty. Even Indians, from their Indian perspective, they are not happy with this treaty. But the literature and any personal assessment does confirm that it was the most practical compromise between the two countries. A neutral empire has been playing a very important role during the mediation process, but again, there is a question of litigation of this adjudication, that which level should be explored, tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. But anyhow, overall, we can say that water diplomacy remained open from the signing of the treaty till this year in April. Now, from April onwards, the situation is different. Last but not the least, the lessons which we have learned is the cooperation should continue, conflict must be prevented, peace-building efforts should continue, principles of negotiations may adhere, and the help of the third-party mediation should be welcomed. International cooperation for infrastructure development is always positive for any country. Transparency should remain the main principle, and legal governance must be entrenched into the political and administrative structure of the two countries, adhere to any international treaty like the Indus Waters Treaty. I skip this, and here is a very detailed analysis that how we can further move forward in order to reduce our existing differences. So I would just read the last column, which that how we can further move forward. I think that the pressure which India has been putting on this treaty and put it in abeyance, instead of that, we, the two countries, India, Pakistan, should move forward, and they are not required to reopen the treaty. But of course, the new problems, the new issues which are being highlighted should be brought under consideration, and a addendum or a supplementary protocol may be discussed between the two countries. But before that, the issue of trust between the two is very important. You see, the Indian government adamant not to open the diplomatic channels with Pakistan. Which country in this 21st century believes that their problems and their issues would be resolved if they do not talk with each other? There are only two ways. One is the negotiations, and second is the war. So they have seen 3 wars and a very recent war in which Pakistan has shot down 7 Rafale fighter jets of India, very sophisticated, and they had a great pride on it, but ultimately the pride has gone to the dust. So I would say that the trust building is very important. Let's sit down together, let's open our books again and be decent, and start discussing our problems mutually with the understanding of each other's perspective. Second, maximization of the usage which has already been allocated. The 3 rivers are given, eastern rivers are given to India. India maximize the uses of those. Pakistan has given 3 rivers. Pakistan should maximize the use of water of these 3 rivers. But the treaty provisions which are being used by India should be used in a judicious way, in an agreeable way. It should not be an imposition that I would not care about your opinion about the design of my dams. You have no right to block the water. You have no right to suddenly release the water behind the walls. So the design must be in conformity with the provisions of the treaty. then I would say that the two countries should be allowed to sit down their experts or their water commissioners on each other's territory. I would say that Pakistan should be given a permission to sit down in the upper riparian's territory to see and monitor the progress. And a regular observer, maybe in a diplomatic sense, we can put it in a cover of a diplomat, hydro diplomat, to sit down in the Indian territory and see that what's and how India has been implementing its projects on the western rivers. We are not talking about the eastern rivers, but the western rivers. And then I would say that there is a need. What India is doing with these water at this moment, since it is all run of the river waters on the western rivers, so there is question of storage of water and usage of that water is not under immediate focus, but it is the production of hydroelectricity. And I personally believe that if India has been producing hydroelectricity, there should be an ample opportunity between the two countries to facilitate trade of hydroelectricity between the two countries. Pakistan has also huge dams, and these dams which are being constructed by India should also bring in conformity with the principles and articles of the treaty, and the trade of hydroelectricity can provide a new opportunity for the two countries to build trust, to build partnership, and to reduce the tension on this infinite resource. Then, last but not the least, India must depoliticize and de-weaponize water. They use water against Pakistan as a weapon. They stop it when we need it. They flow it when we do not need it. So in any case, in each term, Pakistan has faced the difficulties. So India must realize that this is not a decent way, and this is against the spirit of cooperation. It is against the spirit of international law. And let's bring a common sense to be prevailed, and that should be neutralized, and water should not be used as any kind of a weapon. Some constructive suggestions are that the hydrometeorological cooperation is very much needed between the two countries, because the environment, the climate change, the temperature rise, snow melt, all these are being happened in that high mountain zone. Unfortunately, the zone is a conflict zone. Zone is a highly militarized zone, and the zone is having a very limited access because of its terrain. So the mutual cooperation is very essential. And I focus that this cooperation between the two countries should be in the field of hydrometeorology, for getting the perfect, absolute live data and information about the character and behavior of snow, permafrost, and rainfall, snowfall, all the forms of precipitation which is coming in that part of the world and that part of the territory are essential to predict the flow of water downstream. So I would say that hydrometeorological cooperation is essential, which was missed in that treaty, and it should be the part of a new annexure or new protocol. And secondly, the dispute resolution mechanism is very cumbersome, very time consuming, very energy and resource consuming mechanism, and it should be made decent, where the two people can sit down and first trying their best in the presence of in the empirical evidence, so that the problems can be resolved at the first level. The second or third level should come at the last stage. It should not be invoked immediately, but it could not happen until the commissioners, the technical people of the body of commission, are not properly involved and are not autonomous, are not given full autonomy to discuss the issues from purely hydrological and technical standpoint. And now the environment has become such a big issue that I think the environmentalist point of view must be incorporated into their discussions. Thank you so much. I hope that I tried to convey a little bit, but since the topic is so big and so vast, I maybe jump from here to there, but idea was not to deviate the attention, but to try to give focused attention on the issue, that what is going on and how this issue can be resolved. But I think that the Q&A session would give more time and more energy to clarify certain issues which are coming in the minds of the people of my audience. Thank you so much.
Ambassador Abbas, like I always say, it is good to see you again, my friend. It's a great honor to have you once again at the Mexican Institute of Water Technology, sharing your knowledge with all the participants on such an important topic. Thank you very much for such a rich and very interesting presentation. Now, like you said, we will move on the question and answer section to take advantage of this opportunity for direct exchange. Well, the first question from our Director General. Do you believe there is hydrological asymmetry in the case study? What would be the most important elements that would allow us to address the issue of water management asymmetry?
Asymmetry in water management, exactly in the case of Pakistan and India. India is a bigger country and Pakistan is a smaller country. India is an upper riparian, Pakistan is a lower riparian. And that asymmetry is actually, in terms of politics, in terms of resources, is very important. But again, I would say that this asymmetry can be handled or can be covered only through the principle of cooperation. Principle of cooperation must be very fair. It should not be a principle where any party is trying to disguise something from the second party and trying to, exploit its position. This must be prevented. And second, that cooperation should be all-encompassing. It should not cover the cooperation from one side. It should be covered from both sides. And it should be a liberal cooperation, a technical cooperation, a hydrological cooperation. But unfortunately, the practical situation is, just as I just mentioned you, that the Indus Waters Treaty does not have any clause to unilaterally withdraw from the treaty. There is no such, even bilaterally, there is no such clause, because the World Bank has done a tremendous job, and the treaty was signed in the result of 8 long years of negotiations, and international partners paid for it. So how can, in the presence of such a large consultation and negotiations, one can one day say that I am now withdrawing it? This is not the legal way. This is not the international conduct. It is an un-international conduct. It's a very selfish conduct, and it must be prevented. So I would say that cooperation, the definition of cooperation in the realm of international diplomacy, is a very, very important. And only if the two parties are fair enough and they can define the terms of cooperation with each other, then the treaty may steer the process. Otherwise, the chances of unfair practices or malpractices is very, very common. And in particular case, in India and Pakistan, we have been the victim of those malpractices by India, and Pakistan has been suffering. So my answer to this question is that cooperation based on justice, based on fairness, and based on equitability.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We have another here. Considering the ongoing challenges in transboundary water management, what do you see as the key impacts of these tensions on regional development?
I mentioned here the regional development. These are the basic components which the treaty, international treaty like the Indus Water Treaty has contributed towards India and Pakistan. With the result of this treaty, I told you in my briefing that international partners sponsored this whole project of replacement work in Pakistan. And in 1960, the amount of that money was 1 billion USD, which was a huge sum of money. And Pakistan, with the help of international partners like United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, we constructed our infrastructure. Even India has also paid a small sum of money in this whole process, because this replacement work was actually the result of that treaty in which 3 rivers, which were earlier flowing into the Punjab territory, undivided Punjab territory, one morning that Punjab divided between the 2 wings, and then finally it's what we have witnessing now. So infrastructure is a very important development of this whole episode of treaty. And then it is a platform where we can discuss hydrological issues. So the 2 experts, the 2 commissions, the 2 bodies are always available to the 2 countries to keep open the window of negotiations and conversation with each other to discuss. But again, I would say the black lining with this whole silver lining is that India has closed down all the channels of communication right now with Pakistan, and on a very wrong pretexts, which has no relationship with the treaty. That's very important. Treaty does not cover those allegations or those points which India is putting against Pakistan to be discussed at this forum. That are the political issues and has to be handled and discussed separately, not under the umbrella of this treaty. So if they are just wanted to put pressure on Pakistan by putting it in abeyance, it does not fall in the strict sense of application of international law. International law, I would say, does not accept it. So the second thing is the platform, and the last and the most important is that the exchange of information flow between upper riparian and lower riparian. That flow is very important. So I think these are the 3 main contributions of this treaty, which has been granted to both countries, India and Pakistan.
Okay, thank you for that point of view. Ambassador, in Mexico, we also share international river basins and face similar challenges in water management, cooperation, water security. From your perspective, what parallels do you see between the experience on the Indus Basin and the challenges we face in border regions such as the Rio Grande or the Colorado River in Mexico?
Very good question. And from the annals of history, I would like to share with you that when this treaty was under discussion in 60s, 50s and 60s, both Pakistan and India approached to Mexico and they asked the Mexican experience. So I think in 50s and 60s, we must have benefited from your experience, because before us, you had already signed a treaty of 1944 and 1929 with United States of America. So, but one very positive aspect, which I personally believe, that the Treaty of 1944, which gives ample powers to the commissioners of the 2 commissions, meaning the one in the United States Commission on Rio Grande and the Mexican Commission. I met with the commissioners personally, and that is their statement, that we are very happy with this arrangement, that there is no legal department exist in the commissions of the 2 countries. Only a peripheral presence of the lawyers is there just for the sake of certain assistance. But otherwise, the commissioners are solely and wholly responsible for making any decisions. And those decisions are written in the forms of minutes, and minutes are presented to the presidents of the 2 countries. And president has no right to object on the minutes. He may say that you may continue to further explain to him, but the commissioners, whatsoever the commissioners will inscribe on that minute is unchangeable. So it means the commissioners, who are the technical persons, who are assisted by the most talented technical teams from various departments, once put down their decision, is unchangeable. And this is a very positive approach. Here in our case, we have witnessed that Pakistan is approaching to the neutral empire, and Pakistan the first year is the two commissioners. Since the two commissioners belong to two opposite countries, or two agnostic countries that are not agree on their certain point of view, so it means the commissioners has no say, and they will never dare to work against the instructions of their government. So it means they are politicized commissioners. They are not completely independent commissioners. And second, they always refer their cases to the third and second tier. And that is a long issue, a long process to get the final decisions. And by the time, there is another gimmick which is being played between the two countries, that if I have constructed, now I have the right to use that infrastructure which I have built. So they use the intervening time to complete their projects and then establish their authority that I can use my infrastructure because it was built on that reason and on that case. So I think that there behind the mind, there is an unfair practice. So if the commissioners are independent enough and that they can take their decisions properly, only then the treaty can be depoliticized. So I believe that Mexico and United States is very lucky that they do not politicize their issues. Despite the fact that the technical discussion goes on for years and years, and in certain cases I have found that they have spent more than 10 years, but doesn't matter. The issue is taking place between the offices of the two commissioners. This unfortunate situation is not available with us because it is heavily loaded with law, it is heavily loaded with the legal complexities and other issues, which need to be looked into, and how we can strengthen the position of our commissioners is very important.
Thank you, Abbas. Like I said, from Mexico, this topic feels very close to us. We also share international river basins, where the balance between development, equity, cooperation defines the water security for Mexico. Talking about time, the Indus Water Treaty was signed in 1960 and remains in force more than 6 decades later, like you show us in your last slides. What is your view on its current relevance and on the technical, political, climate conditions? For example, how much has climate change affected river runoff and made water distribution in the region more difficult?
Very good question. But unfortunate answer is that the climate change has not been the part of treaty.
Okay.
Treaty is a quantitative treaty. It is not a qualitative treaty. My audience should understand it, that this treaty has been written purely on the terms of statistics, not on the terms of quality. So quality, which is now, which I think at that time may not be very important consideration, because the people's or scientific understanding of the climate and environment and the global warming, etc., which are now the table talk, were not the part of that time's conversation. So we would not blame the negotiators, or we would not blame the governments at that time that why they have not incorporated that components, which should be the part of it. But exactly this demands the need to add those components into a new format. Opening of the treaty is dangerous like volcano, because there is a complete lack of trust between the two countries, do not have a friendly relations with each other since their birth. And there is a deep entrenched mistrust between the two countries. So we cannot expect from the two governments that if they may open the treaty, they can rebind it. They cannot rebind it. This is my absolute understanding about the mentality and the mindset of the people of subcontinent. They cannot. So in order to preserve the hard work of generations, I would suggest that the treaty will remain as it is. Yes, but the negotiations human beings are not going to done now. They are more intelligent than before. So let's sit down together and make a new chapter, an independent chapter, and that chapter may ask the two governments to let's start working together to improve the environment. Environment has been deteriorated very fast, not because of their personal reasons, meaning personal means that specifically the Indian impact or the Pakistani impact on the climate, but it's a global issue. The warmth which is being created, the heat which has been created by American factories is going and traveling to the Pakistani side. And the heat which is being generated by Russia may be concentrated on Himalayan and Karakoram hemispheres. So this is a very difficult, this is very difficult, but the question or the answer of this difficulty is to sit down again, start discussing their problems with open eyes, with open mind, and make a new chapter, a new agreement between the two governments. So I wish that the two governments may understand it, and particularly India, which has closed down the windows of negotiations. This is very unfortunate and unhuman, I would say. So it must be reopened. And let's start discussing about the environment and address the climate issues and environmental issues separately.
Thanks for your answer. Finally, I want to comment to the audience that for the Mexican Institute of Water Technology, this presentation is also very special. Ambassador Abbas recently collaborated with us during his training on transboundary water issues held last October at our water security coordination. Thank you so much. The last question, Abbas.
It's
Sorry?
my honor, and I'm really grateful for the entire team of IMTA, particularly Madam Patricia Herrera, for giving me this opportunity to collaborate with you and learn from you, because Mexico has a great experience in this particular hydro politics. So I would learn as much as I can from all of the members of the IMTA, and I declared IMTA as my own institution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, go to the last question, Abbas. In your opinion,
Please.
what would be the most promising way forward to transform water from a source of tension into a platform for regional collaboration and peace in South Asia?
It's again the repetition of my earlier conversation with you. I would say that love is very important. Humans cannot live without love, and hate cannot prolong for a long, unlimited time. So I have a very my mind and my soul, in fact, reflects me that the relations between India and Pakistan would become friendly, and the two countries would start learning like brothers and sisters, and inshallah these problems will get over. Only the need is that a genuine, honest, and pragmatic leadership should come, and they in the field of hydrology, and they may discuss the hydrological issues purely from the perspective of hydrology, not from the prism of politics. Politics nowadays is very divisive, and we should not come under the shadow of that kind of a politics, but the politics of love and politics of cooperation and politics of sharing and politics of sacrifice. This kind of a politics is actually needed to the two countries. And once that kind of a people will come up, those who have a love for humanity, love for nature, love for environment, I think these political problems will automatically solve. But here we see we want to take precedence on others. We want to take, I got it. Whether hook or by crook, I got it. So this mentality is a negative mentality. And the diplomacy teaches us honesty and the pure analysis of the real situation. and trying to give a scientific solution, not a treacherous solution which just camouflage the feelings of others and then try to deceive others and then take out of your own interest. This kind of politics is forbidden in my personal thinking, in my religion, and also in my body politics of the country. So I would advise to all that we should come forward with open heart, with open mind, sit down together and see that such a huge chunk of humanity has been living in subcontinent, meaning 1.6 billion people. It is not a small number of people living on the planet. It is 20% of the total population. So we need to care about them. We need to think about their future, and we need to think that how the infinite resources of this earth, which God has very blissfully given to all of us indiscriminately, can be distributed fairly in a greater benefit of humanity.
Perfect. Very good answer. We have one more, Ambassador. It's a more technical question. From a river perspective, what is the most important characteristic that should be taken to ensure water security in a border river? For example, is it sediment control or flood control or which one?
Here, I would say that it is a technical question, and the technicalities emphasize on empirical evidence.
Okay.
So empirical evidence is data. And first and foremost, at the border region, which is very sensitive in terms, because it is a border region and any country can take any kind of an interpretation of that situation, positive or negative, but data can solve a lot many problems. So transboundaries, the rivers where the boundaries are being marked on the rivers, the important thing is the collaboration of data. If data is given from the upper to lower, I think the problems can be solved in a more expeditious manner, in a more judicious manner. Otherwise, problem may get complicated and we may not get any final and constructive solution.
Perfect. Well, so we deeply thank you, Ambassador Abbas, for sharing his time, experience with us, and for offering a clear and thoughtful perspective of this challenge and the opportunity of know about water management in the Indus Basin. It's a privilege to have you here with us in the UNESCO IMTA chair.
My honor that you have given me this opportunity to discuss on this important issue. And I wish that the people of all joint transboundary water regions may live together and live with love and fraternity, and live with the understanding that either human being is living upstream or downstream are all human beings, and their needs are similar to each other. There is no difference between the needs of upstream, downstream. So if the human perspective is more pronounced in your judgments, I think you can reach to more judicious and fair decision-making process that can be beneficial for both of the countries and both of the regions or both of the zones in the world.
For sure, Ambassador. Thank you so much for that message. In Spanish, agradecemos a todos y a todas quienes nos acompañaron en esta transmisión. Esperamos que esta conversación, así como el embajador lo dice, inspire reflexiones sobre cooperación internacional y también sobre seguridad hídrica. Ambassador, with this, we conclude the Q&A segment, and now I hand over to Marco Sanchez for the closing remarks and invitation to our upcoming IMTA events.
Muchísimas gracias, Fernando, and we sincerely thank you, Your Excellency, Ambassador Abbas Shozab, for your generous participation and insightful presentation. It has been an honor for the Mexican Institute of Water Technology and the UNESCO IMTA chair to share this space of knowledge with you, strengthening our common commitment to cooperation and peace through water. Muchísimas gracias, Embajador. Y pues también muchísimas gracias al maestro Fernando Cetina Robleda por su magnífica moderación. Él es el subcoordinador de Agua, Territorio y Asuntos Transfronterizos en el Instituto Mexicano de Tecnología del Agua. Muchísimas gracias. De verdad que es un honor para la cátedra UNESCO IMTA el tener de esta mañana de invitado al señor embajador, poder compartir con todos y todos esta magnífica charla, la cual les recordamos que está grabada, se está grabando por la importancia que tiene este seminario, para que en cualquier momento puedan consultarlo en las plataformas del Instituto Mexicano de Tecnología del Agua. Está disponible para todas y para todos, y con mucho gusto compartiremos también el chat, todo el registro de comentarios, de preguntas que se generaron a lo largo del seminario con la participación de cada una y cada uno de ustedes, que ya no nos dio tiempo de poder conversar y despejar con el señor embajador, pero se las haremos llegar para que él tenga presente pues sus inquietudes y sus preguntas, que sin duda lo que hacen es fortalecer esta comunidad de conocimiento y acercarnos más para poder convertir el agua en un elemento de cooperación y de paz para todo el mundo. Muchísimas gracias también, maestra Patricia Herrera, quien ha impulsado también de forma muy importante la presencia internacional del Instituto Mexicano de Tecnología del Agua, y estos temas nos ayudan a ello, y esta es una herramienta que cuenta el Instituto Mexicano de Tecnología del Agua para hacer posible compartir esto que es lo mejor del conocimiento hídrico a nivel del mundo con todas y todos los interesados en esta temática. Muchísimas gracias. Y antes de terminar, yo quiero invitarles a todas y todos a que enciendan sus cámaras en este momento para que podamos tomar una fotografía conmemorativa de este importante seminario que pudimos compartir gracias al señor embajador Abbas Shozab, y pues podamos tomar esta fotografía con todas y todos ustedes. Y mientras tanto, yo quisiera también invitarles a nuestros próximos eventos. Estamos tocando un tema fundamental también en México con respecto a la distribución del agua. Vamos a pedir por favor si podemos cambiar la pantalla para poder compartir con ustedes esta próxima invitación, porque les comento, en el ámbito de el cierre del ciclo número 36 del Tratado Internacional de Agua entre México y Estados Unidos, y de la seguridad hídrica en la cuenca del río Bravo. El 10 de noviembre tendremos a las 10 de la mañana un conversatorio sobre los retos para el cumplimiento del Tratado de Aguas Internacionales de 1944 y la seguridad hídrica en la cuenca del río Bravo. El registro se encuentra ya abierto en la página de la cátedra UNESCO IMTA para que ustedes puedan apuntarse y no perderse detalle de este conversatorio que abre pie para este análisis, donde los propios protagonistas y actores de esta espacio de gestión de las aguas transnacionales estarán conversando con todas nosotras, y también, por supuesto, especialistas y expertos de la más alta calidad para podernos brindar esta visión específica del Tratado Internacional de Aguas de 1944. No sé si hay algún detalle para que podamos compartir la pantalla y podamos hacer la fotografía de grupo. Si me indica el equipo de comunicación, muchísimas gracias, ya lo tenemos aquí. Entonces, pues en lo que se encienden el resto de las cámaras de quienes así lo deseen, no nos resta más que agradecerles muchísimo al señor embajador y por supuesto a todas y todos ustedes su valiosa presencia y el formar parte y hacer crecer esta comunidad de conocimiento en torno al agua. ¿Y qué les parece que a la cuenta de tres nos regalamos una gran sonrisa por haber participado de este seminario que podemos catalogar como histórico para la cátedra, para el instituto y por supuesto para nuestros países? Muchísimas gracias y que tengan la mejor de las tardes, y nos encontramos en los próximos espacios de conocimiento de la cátedra UNESCO IMTA. Muchísimas gracias. A la cuenta de tres nos regalamos una gran sonrisa y nos despedimos. Una, dos y tres. Hasta pronto.
Madam
Estén
Gracias,
Patricia,
muy
embajador.
bien. Gracias,
thank you.
embajador.
And I saw Dr. Gonzalez Hita. Thank you so much, Doctor, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Nos encontramos en el próximo espacio de conocimiento. Hasta pronto.
Gracias. All of you who
Gracias.
made all that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.